Well, we've had a request for some help on joining polylines and applying smooth curve to them. And our user has sent this little drawing in, and he says I start with two polylines. So there's a polyline on the left, and I've associated with that a fence line pattern and given it a line weight to distinguish it from a line which he wants to represent the edge of a garden bed, and it's on a layer called renovation. So he starts with two polylines. If we move then to this area here, he says there's no problem joining them until I add a spline curve. So if we select this one, it's just a polyline. Pick this one, it's also a polyline, but there's no curve fitting applied to it. And so if we take these two, we can indeed join them. And the properties will be related to what was selected first. So if I join them, I lose the line type pattern, but then they're now joined. And of course, if you then try and apply curve fitting to them, you'll get a very unusual appearance, and it won't work for the garden bed at all. So if we change that to, say, cubic B-spline, and I'll unselect, can you see the curve fitting just fails? So what we're after is the fence showing, and then we want to apply curve fitting to these lines. And if I try and repeat what we did in that second pattern, I'll pick these two now and try and join them after curve fitting has been applied, and we get an error message. So how do you overcome something like that? Well, the way to overcome it is to apply curve fitting to this curve here, that's the edge of the garden bed, and then draw a line. In this case I've just drawn a line. If I come over here, I might be able to pick it. No, I draw a line from the end to the along the fence line. I draw a line, and then so if I pick that, it's in fact a polyline. So I've applied curve fitting now, and what I want to do is to apply some hatching to it. If I select, here it is, it's concrete, but can be used for ground cover, of course, scale of 10, and it's a relatively simple matter to, say, draw and hatch. There's our pattern. You could choose another pattern, but this time, rather than picking the entity, we'll pick a point. And gCADPlus runs away and finds a boundary, and if we now hit enter, we're back in here, and I've got my drawing colour at colour 42, and we've chosen that pattern, and I've got a scale that gives me a reasonably low density, somewhere in the region of between 5 and 10, and I'll OK. So now we have achieved our aim. The difference being we're just using a line over here. You can see what the using that tool to find that boundary puts a very dense polyline in through here, and it's actually joined. It's done the join, but put lots of points along there, which is how you can get the hatch pattern to work. So it's a roundabout way, but you can manage that particular problem in that way. Well, I'm not at all happy with a polyline that has that number of vertices in it. There's over 1200 vertices in that polyline, and that's going to really load up the drawing file. So I would suggest an even easier way. Go across to your object snap, turn object snap on, and put nearest on. Now just start the polyline command, and without being terribly fussy, just sort of click in here and run around the area that you are interested in. And I've done the fence line now, so once that's done, just come in here like so and run around spacing your vertices out as closely as you need, and remember that vertices can be adjusted very easily in a polyline. So I'm working my way along, putting a relatively few number of vertices in. When you come to a curving point, perhaps put several more in, like so, down to here, and then right click and close it. So now we have a polyline around through here, and very easy to move a vertex to the end like so. Now that is able to be, that shape can now be hatched, and we'll pick, this time we'll pick the entity, which is that one. That's the one we just drawn, and we'll hatch it, and now remove that polyline. Now before I did that, I probably put one more vertex in there, or a couple more, and just move them inside like so. So I just run around checking, and once it's selected, just change my scale. I'll make that 5 and then zoom out. So I've achieved the same aim. There's hatching in the area, but my polyline, of course, that I used is now gone. We've left the curve fitting in, so it's pretty easy to adjust things. So that's an alternative way, and doesn't load the drawing file up too much. Although I would use a variation on that theme, I would start my polyline command. I wouldn't be at all fussed about getting close in. I've got polar on, so I'd take everything off and just very quickly move around, but stay inside the area of interest. And I think you can see this is not going to take very long at all to draw, and if you like, it's an internal boundary, and I can close it. I could curve fit it if I like, but I don't think that's necessary either. And let's go draw and hatch. We'll pick the entity, hit enter, make it 5 again, and OK it. So there's the hatching done, and we can get rid of it. And I think, to me, that's a useful and simple way, I think, to indicate that there's some mulch through that area.